are so focused on taking away the symbols or silencing voices that they don't realize it's already gone. The train has already left the station. You could change the color of the train, but it doesn't matter. The train is headed in one direction, and that's freedom.
Welcome to the Higher Love with Megan podcast with me, your host, Megan Cooper, a trauma-informed therapist, life coach and disruptor of wellness norms based in Brighton, UK. This isn't another nice-to-have wellness podcast. Instead, this podcast seeks to redefine what it means to be well in today's world. Here, we challenge the status quo, seek to reunite wellness with social justice and improve accessibility, diversity and inclusivity within wellness and beyond. As a listener, you are not here to passively consume. Instead, you are an ambassador for real, embodied, societal and systemic change in the world. As your host, I stand for radical self-inquiry and being able to have those confronting but necessary conversations so that we can remember our collective humanity at this time. We're here for the revolution and you've got a front row seat. For many of you, this week's guest will need no introduction. Dr. Mohammed Mustafa, or is known from his social media Beast from the Middle East, Dr. Mo has become a renowned face and voice in spreading the message of what is happening on the ground in Gaza. An English-Australian emergency physician trainee and humanitarian of Palestinian heritage, Dr. Mo served in Gaza's Nasser and European hospitals, providing critical emergency care amid escalating violence in 2024 and 2025. He returned to Gaza in March of this year, arriving just as a fragile ceasefire collapsed. His raw, live reporting from inside emergency departments brought the scale of the increasing devastation to millions worldwide. Since leaving Gaza, Dr. Mo has been advocating tirelessly across countries, connecting with international governments, broadcasters and media platforms to protect the children of Gaza. On other episodes, such as the Muslim Pound and Owen Jones podcast, you can hear his personal experiences of providing medical care in Gaza, the likes of which is almost impossible to comprehend, let alone be prepared to experience firsthand. He continuously centres the commitment of Palestinian doctors, nurses and medics, the ones who tirelessly and courageously risk their lives every day to do their jobs, and who deserve our continual support and solidarity. In this episode, we continue the conversation about how important it is for all of us to keep going relentlessly taking action and to take action today. Dr. Mo has recently been denied access back into Gaza, a deliberate block many medics have encountered, and is focused on bringing plans for a mobile children's hospital into fruition. Please listen, bear witness, continue to raise awareness, advocating and acting at this crucial time in the genocide, and follow Dr. Mo's work via his social media, Beast from the Middle East. Introducing Dr. Mo on the Higher Love with Megan podcast. Well, firstly, I just want to say thank you for making time for this conversation. I know that you are in so many different places doing such incredible things, so I'm just really grateful that you decided to spend your Sunday evening with me, so thanks for being here.
Well, thank you for having me, honestly. It's a pleasure.
Yeah, and thank you for the amazing work that you do. So many people find it challenging, but thank you for everything that you have been doing over the past few weeks. And you have been doing a lot, haven't you? You've been absolutely everywhere. You've been in the UK, you've been in France, you've been on the Freedom Flotilla, you've been in Ireland. So how are you, first of all? Bless you.
Sorry, I sneezed. You know, all the work that I do and how busy I ever am, I always just put it into context. No matter how busy I am that day, we've lost 100 people that day. We've lost, according to, UN reports, 27 children a day have been killed in Gaza since the start of this conflict. That's a classroom. So, for me, it's the frustration. It's the frustration that I'm not getting things done. For me, it's just, I'm not busy enough. That's the way I look at it. I need to keep going, keep doing more. The more interviews that I do, the more campaigning that I do, the more doors it'll open in Parliament here. We're not just working with one government, we're trying to work with multiple governments. And it's very difficult what we're trying to do, and there's a lot of obstacles and there's a lot of barriers, but we just got to keep going. The consequences of failing at this are so high, the stakes are so high, that it doesn't really matter how busy I am. If you had a sick child and needed to work to pay for their cancer treatment, you wouldn't stop working. But it's not one child. It is literally 1 million children that we're working for. That's why I can't be busy enough. I'm just not busy enough. That's the truth.
How was it for you yesterday, being at the march and then at Voices of Solidarity last night? How was your experience of yesterday?
You know, being at the march is always amazing. You always see the most committed people. You see people who have been doing this for years, like the organizers, the people who campaign, the people with their independent media that have microphones and are interviewing people. It's amazing to see them, because I look at them and I just think to myself, like, wow, like I've been cast into the spotlight for a few months. These people have been doing this when nobody was watching for years. And that for me is always the fascination to see. It's always amazing to see those people. I love going to protests and gatherings like that just to meet those people. When you have a conversation with those people and they talk about how much they love what you're doing, you think to yourself, like, wow, these people have seen it all. If it's a compliment from them, it means a lot. I love all of that. The event was amazing. It was really amazing to see everybody there. But, for me, I just can't think of anything else than what's going on in Gaza. And, like, sometimes these big events and these big gatherings, they're important. But at the same time as well, I just don't want them to distract from what's going on, and that's why we've got to keep going regardless of what happens.
Before we go on, I'd so appreciate you to hit follow or subscribe. If you're listening on Spotify, click those 3 little dots next to settings to rate the show. On Apple Podcasts, you can leave a review or take a moment to explore how you can rate or review on the platform that you're listening or watching. This makes a difference. I truly believe we need to have more of these conversations to shake up the status quo. We'll beat the algorithm together with your clicks and shares. Now back to the episode. And of course, whilst you are doing everything that you're doing, you're also experiencing, and my condolences for this, that you lost a relative who was waiting for food in line at the GHF. You wrote that my heart bleeds and people only see the tip of what I'm carrying every day. I can only imagine how challenging that aspect of this is for you too.
Well, there's a lot more meaning to that message. The tip of what I'm carrying is the responsibility of trying to get this over the line. That's a huge weight that I have on my shoulders. I've put my reputation on the line. I've leveraged who I am on trying to get this done. That's a lot of pressure. And then on top of that, I have my family who have been struggling the whole time throughout all of this. And then on top of that, I have all the threats, the death threats, the gatekeepers within the movement, people who don't want to see me succeed because, for them, they look at it as this is a rival that's come in. I should be the one leading. Why is he leading? He's not an adequate enough voice for us. His views don't align with my view of everything in the pro-Pali movement, so then he has to not be given the keys to move things forward. I have to deal with all of that all the time. And it's heavy every single day, like these things that you have to deal with. And it's heavy when you have to deal it from within the pro-Palestine community itself.
Yeah. And I've seen you speak to that on the Muslim Pound podcast. You spoke in that episode about the importance of us really seeing what we have in common, what our similarities are. We all have a different way of how we think things should go and what we're bringing to that. But you talked about it in the context of, if you've got your 10 out of 10 passion, activism, force that you're bringing, and somebody else has only got 5%, we shouldn't be focusing on the 5% that we have differently or the 5% that we think that person is lacking. Together we make 15 versus. So I guess that is also something that I hear there, this importance of all of us finding these commonalities that we share and bringing that all together.
Yeah, 100%. Look, this is a growing movement. There are going to be people that come into this that are brand new. There are going to be people that are trying to unlearn decades of propaganda, decades of family upbringing that don't necessarily believe where I'm coming from. And what you have to remember with these people is, or these people that are coming new into the movement, had to tussle with not only maybe their entire family, right? They might be having to tussle with the fact that their values no longer align with their entire family, first of all. Then you also have to bear in mind that this person is tussling with the fact that for the last 30 years of their life, 35, 40 years, 50 years of their life, everything that they have lived for has been based on a lie. Sit with that for a minute and think about where that person has to come from in order to reach a place of accepting that everything, because, when you celebrate birthdays, when you celebrate the holidays, when you celebrate an achievement and it's based on this principle and the wiping out of another group of people, that you've never heard of before and you've never seen their story and you always thought their story was this and actually it turns out that it was this. The lie that's always peddled is it's a land without a people with a people without a land. But there was these people that were living there and it was a thriving place. And actually, they welcomed your family and people like you when you first came, and they were not against you. They don't hate you for who you are or your religion. To then have to realize that all of this was based on a falsehood, it then undermines everything that you believe in yourself, what you are. That's a huge pill to swallow. And that's why I want people to have a bit more grace with these people, even if they come in and they are saying the wrong things. Just welcome them in. Let's show them who we are. We are a pro-humanity movement. We want everybody to feel welcome here. It doesn't matter their race, their sexual orientation, their religion. You don't have to agree with me 100%, but you have to see my humanity. That's all we're asking for, is people to see our humanity. And, it's hard because for some people, I understand where their passion comes from. But if I'm able to do this and think like this, and I have family members that are killed all the time in Gaza, if I've been there and I was in the hospital grounds as they were bombed and I put my life at risk, if I don't have the anger, then you shouldn't have the anger either. Trust what this movement is about. This movement is about the entire human spectrum. We are representing everyone. Gaza is the intersectionality between capitalism, between colonialism, the war machine, human rights, racism, white supremacy, religious supremacy. Gaza intersects all of that. That's why this movement is so unique, and that's why it's so important. It has all these facets to it. I don't expect somebody to be the perfect advocate. There'll be certain areas that I lack in that other people might think he's weak on this and he's not strong enough with his stance on this and he should support this more, and why isn't he doing this? Look, this is a big movement. It intersects a lot of things, and for some people, they've joined the movement because they believe that it's wrong to starve children to death. But these are the same people that if you were to ask them and they were to say, yeah, but no, they shouldn't have a state, but we can't starve their children to death. Now, look, there's obviously some fundamental differences with what we believe in here. However, let's stick with the humanity side of things. They don't want the children to be starved to death and they don't want to be killed. Good. Let's work with that. People are dying, and we need everyone's voices to come together with what we agree on, which is the killing needs to stop.
Absolutely. I mean, there's so much that you just said there. I mean, I think that this has been such a demanding learning and unlearning for so many people. I've spoken to so many people about this that, for myself, being a white Caucasian woman that was born and bred in the UK, certain version of history, over the last couple of years, I was on the unlearning train anyway with the nature of the work that I do. But you just needed to pull slightly on the string of Palestine to understand, as you said, colonialism, white supremacy, racism, the military-industrial complex, capitalism, and then it all just unravels. So I think that people who've come into it with that willingness to question so much of what we think we know, what we think that we stand for, I think that that's why it's galvanized such a huge movement within society. But like you said, that is a big ask for a lot of people who are very deeply entrenched with the society in which we live. So I think it's important for all of us, as you said, to have grace, to have understanding, to hold on to that compassion. But that is a challenging 100%. Thing to do, right? I mean, as you said, there's so much that you're holding. How do you deal with that heaviness every day? How do you continue to work with it?
It is heavy and there are days where I really struggle. But like I've said to you, it's the urgency of the situation. My needs are not greater than what's going on in Gaza. There are people collapsing right now in Gaza because of lack of food. I've got a chocolate bar right next to me. I'm good. I've got a bottle of water right next to me. I'm fine. I've got a warm bed. If there's not drones overhead, there isn't bombings going on, I'm fine. A little bit of tiredness and a little bit of fatigue is nothing compared to what they're going through. And that's what I always remind myself. It's relative. I'm busy. It's hard work. There's a lot of pressure on me. I get all of that, but it must be hard work and there must be a lot of pressure on you if you're a father of 3 in Gaza and there's no food. If your wife's pregnant, if you've got a newborn baby, your wife's lactating, There's no food for her or the rest of the kids. That's pressure. And making that decision to go into the GHF line and potentially being killed. I just saw a video today on Instagram of a man holding his child and crying because his son was shot at the GHF line and he was apologizing. These images break your heart. That's what makes me understand that no matter how hard it is for me, it's way harder for them. And that's the most important thing.
Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, what you've touched on multiple times is the very real urgency of this situation, which I know that all of us are very acutely aware of. But I just wanted, before we go a little bit into, I know that you're trying to find solutions at this time. I know that I really want to get on to talking about the hospital that you're trying to bring forward, but I just want to speak a little bit about, you know, you've been to Gaza, you've come back from your times there. You've spoken about it a lot on the Owen Jones podcast, on the Muslim Pound podcast, both of which I've listened to. If people want to listen to more about that, really listen to both those podcasts. They're really excellent. You talking about your experiences there. And I wanted to ask you, your dad was a Palestinian refugee. He came to the UK. He's now one of the most successful fertility doctors in the UK. You've grown up knowing this history of your land, knowing the history of your people. But could anything have prepared you for what you saw and experienced in Gaza?
I don't think anything can prepare you for what we're seeing in Gaza. One of the unique things about this is, and I get told this every single day by people, they think that we've reached the lowest point. It can't get worse than what we're seeing right now, and then it gets worse. And it's been like that for 2 years. We thought that indiscriminate bombing at the start in October, that's the worst that we're going to see, just bombs raining everywhere. We saw images of those trucks with women and children as they were moving through the safe zone being bombed. The route that the Israelis gave these people, we saw those images and we were all horrified going, wow, this is unbelievable. They're essentially funneling these people into tight spaces and then bombing them on the ways where they tell them to go to humanitarian zones. Then, you know, we saw them put a total siege on Gaza and only letting in a few aid trucks, but at least the UN were distributing the food, but people were still dying of starvation. You know, when I was there last year in June, we were seeing this happen. We were seeing people die of starvation in June last year. And we thought, you know, this is the worst that we're going to see of it now is, you know, people dying. And then we saw the systematic targeting of hospitals. Then we saw healthcare workers being targeted in their own homes and being killed. Then we saw things like Hind Rajab. Then we saw things like when their dog mauled a man with Down syndrome and they left to die. Then we had Israeli soldiers coming out and saying they have PTSD and they can't eat meat because of the amount of human bodies they squashed with bulldozers. And you think to yourself, this can't get any worse than this. And then we see people burning alive in tents. The cutting off of food to the north for a period last year when aid trucks were allowed to go in, people were gunned down on these flower massacres. And we were seeing that happen. And then we saw the aid workers that were executed and buried in shallow graves. Just when you think you've seen it all, then the GHF comes along and you see women and children funneled into cages and being gunned down. And then you think, right, we've seen as bad as it gets here. And then they come out with, well, we're going to have a humanitarian city after they've leveled the whole of Rafah. And this humanitarian city is going to be essentially a concentration camp. And if you're not in it, you're going to get killed. And things can still get worse than this, believe it or not. And that's what I've just kind of keep telling myself, that the images we're seeing, it might actually get worse than that. That's what we're beginning to see now in Gaza.
Yeah. I think that's been such a common thing amongst so many people I've spoken to, that every time we say it can't get worse, the next day there's something else. That's been such a harrowing thing to stay in relationship with constantly. The cruelty can actually get more intense. It's almost unfathomable, I think, for so many people, what we have witnessed being live streamed. You know, something that I've heard a lot, something that I've heard you say, Miriam Francois said it in the last couple of times I've seen her speak. So many people have been saying that the healthcare workers in Gaza really are some of the finest humans that walk amongst us. We've all seen that on our phones. We've seen how they've been systematically targeted. Channel 4 releasing what should have been on the BBC, the Doctors in Gaza documentary that brought things forward in even further detail. Can you share just how incredible these medics are in Gaza?
I remember the night the ceasefire broke and I was there, and what happened. I remember when we were working and patients had flown outside to the street and we were working on the streets. I remember being just overwhelmed. We saw so many people coming in dead. I remember hearing a voice, and it was a doctor in his pajamas. He said, don't worry, doctor, we're here. I looked up, and it was these doctors that had came in the middle of the night, walking, running to the hospital during a mass casualty event. They came to help because they knew we'd be overwhelmed. They knew that we were understaffed, and they came to help. I was just thinking to myself, their families could be bombed. Their home could get bombed. They could lose their entire family. Do they not want to be there for them? They're going out in the middle of the streets when drones are circling low, shooting at people. And they're risking it all to come to help us. We don't have much medical equipment, but they're still willing to risk it all to come in and provide whatever little help they can. A year and 9 months into the war, and they're still doing this. That to me is what makes it remarkable. It's when you get into the back of ambulances and you go to meet these paramedics, these Red Crescent workers, and these people are literally driving into the firing line, being executed sometimes, being blown up. You're witnessing this, and you just think to yourself, wow, these are the bravest human beings. These are the most selfless human beings. And if you were to tell them, why are you so brave? They'll just tell you, we're just helping the people. We're not doing anything. We wish we could do more. That's usually what they say. I wish we could do more. That's why I feel like an imposter when people try and compliment me. I'm not a hero at all. And I'm nothing in comparison to these people. They are something else. And that's why it's so vital that I do what I'm trying to do, which is to help re-establish the healthcare system in Gaza and trying to get these people some support. That's why this is so important.
Yeah. We've seen as well doctors who've been in the hospital and their family members have been brought in, and they've had to see their family members, they've had to treat their family members, they've had their children brought in, and they keep coming back the next day. Losing a parent, a child, a sibling, any family member is a deeply traumatic experience. But these doctors continue to do their job day in, day out whilst their families are being targeted. It's just, it's unbelievable witness.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many of them that we worked with that were injured. Many had lost members of their family, and they're still showing up to work. Sometimes we don't go into work because we feel like we've had a rough weekend, or maybe you've had an argument with your partner and you don't feel up to it. But these people are living in tents, sometimes without eating for 2-3 days, and they still turn up to work to do a 24-hour shift in some of the most horrific, dangerous circumstances. I just take my hat off to them. These people are special.
And I think because of that, I feel the Palestinian people, what they are experiencing, what they have experienced for decades, the resilience they show, the love they show, the respect for one another, the community aspect, it feels like something within the cruelty of our world, something that needs protecting at this time as well. It really does feel, from the connections I have built with people in Gaza, I don't know them personally, just online relationships, people I've witnessed, the conversations I've had, it feels like something that is at the profound heart and soul of the very best of humanity. Would you say that's fair to say?
I mean, look, I'm a very spiritual guy, and I always feel this is the irony. When a genocide is being committed and they try and dehumanize these people so much, what has shown through from all, that's why it doesn't matter how many billions they spend trying to dehumanize these people. It doesn't matter how many media platforms they have influence over. What comes through is these people's humanity. Even in their darkest moments and in their suffering, people see the sacrifices that these people make. People see them holding their children, and they are so graceful with the way that they suffer that it's made people fall in love with them. It's made people fall in love with the Palestinian cause. And, when they show themselves wearing dead women's underwear, playing with dead children's toys, ransacking homes and laughing, mocking people in Gaza that we've seen, when we see how they target healthcare workers and they kill unarmed civilians, and people watch all of this, and what they're seeing on the other side, they're not seeing hate. They're seeing the other side have hope in their faith. And all this Islamophobia for years, and everyone's like, it's just this alien religion and it's not part of Western society and it can never fit in. And then people are watching these people who are Muslim hold on to their faith in some of the darkest moments, and it be so graceful, the way that they carry themselves and the way that they conduct themselves, that it's made a lot of people question themselves of what they believed about Islam. It's made them question themselves of what they believe about people in that part of the world. And I don't think we've ever seen a group of people win over the hearts and minds of the whole world by how gracefully they suffered. That's what we're seeing. And to me, that's one of the things where it doesn't matter how sophisticated your weapons are. It doesn't matter how advanced your weapons are. They always lose when it's faced with such humanity and such dignity. And ultimately, it's the irony of it all. For years, for decades, they ran media campaigns to dehumanize these people so that they could execute them, that they could drive them from their homes, that they could justify the apartheid system. And it was that media campaign that has led so many people to fall in love with them. It's that media spotlight that's led the whole world to change its heart and its opinions about what's going on. And that's why I sometimes laugh when you see the propaganda now from spokesmen that come on shows like Piers Morgan or come on the BBC. It's laughable now. It's laughable. You hear it and you begin to think to yourself, why were we falling for these same lines 20 years ago, 30 years ago? It's the same lines. It's always been the same lines. It's never changed. And that's what happens. You know, you can manufacture consent for so long, but ultimately the truth comes out. And, you know, with Iraq, the truth came out, but it came out, you know, a decade later when people suddenly realized that this was the wrong decision. But in Gaza, people are beginning to realize it much sooner because of how resilient these people are in Gaza. That's what I believe is one of the most beautiful things, is that these people have freed themselves. These people have liberated their own homes. They didn't need to carry a weapon. They just needed to carry their grace and their dignity. And they've done that. And that's won over the hearts and minds of millions of people. So as many battles as they win on the battlefield, the IDF, they've lost the war. The war is lost. No matter how many battles they win, the war is lost and they have won the war. But, you know, justice and God, it's poetic, the justice, you know, and it's always the irony. The irony of it is they thought that with military might alone, they could defeat these people. And, you know, they might have destroyed their homes. They might have killed their children, but their objectives of what they were trying to do haven't been met. And these people are the ones that come out victorious. They're the ones that have had their stories told all over the world. They're the ones that have been so humanized that you have people who have nothing to do with the Middle East, who have nothing to do with Islam, who have nothing to do with Arabs, have never viewed that part of the world or that religion in any positive light. And you have them wearing keffiyehs on the streets. You have them fundraising. You have them talking about it. When you get the average redneck American in the South of America supporting Palestine, it just shows you how far these people in Palestine have cut the hearts and minds of so many people, have ingrained themselves now into a culture, into society. The keffiyeh has become a symbol for so many other things. You know, you can go to a women's right movement, you can go to an LGBTQ movement, and you'll see the keffiyeh there. And that's why they've lost, because as the billions that they may spend on propaganda and lobbying governments, you cannot win the hearts and minds of people the same way that the keffiyeh has. And I think what they don't realize is that these things are just symbols. You can take away a symbol and take down a flag, but it just creates more symbols. You know, when they took down the flag, that's where the watermelon came from. And now the watermelon has had its own life of its own. You know, this fruit has garnered a whole life of its own. You want to take that away, more is going to come, because it's not the symbol that is galvanizing people. It's what they're seeing. But they are so focused on taking away the symbols or silencing voices that they don't realize it's already gone. The train has already left the station. You could change the color of the train, but it doesn't matter. The train is headed in one direction, and that's freedom.
Yeah. We obviously had the national march yesterday, and that's what you see. There are the attempts to fearmonger, to silence, to threaten people with all sorts of things. And what you see is people saying, no, we're the people, we're not going away, we're not going to be silent, and coming together. And, you've spoken about people understanding the amount of anti-Arab, anti-Muslim propaganda that we have been fed decades. And what we actually see within this movement is people across religions, people across races, across genders, across age groups, backgrounds, coming together and recognizing the unity that we have within us. And the conversations that I have had with Arab friends and Muslim friends over the last couple of years have been so illuminating to understand the dehumanization of Arabs and people within the Middle East and Muslims in general. I hope is happening is what you've just spoken to, this rehumanization of understanding how much propaganda has been put out there and how far from the truth it is in so many ways. I have to ask you this. I saw your interview on Piers Morgan, and how was that for you? And also, how do you stay so cool?
Well, the reason why I stay so cool is because I'm so tired all the time. I just don't have the energy to react. So, that's part of the reason. I do my best work when I'm exhausted. But, look, the thing is I've grown up, I went to secondary school. I started secondary school on September the 5th, 2001.
Wow.
So, a week later, that's when we had 9/11 and things changed, a lot for Muslim kids growing up. I was bullied a lot. I had a lot of problems at school. I would get suspended, expelled, kicked out, move around from school to school. I've dealt with a lot of bullying. I've dealt with a lot of racism. There comes a stage in all of this where anger is not productive. Anger is not helpful. And anger doesn't do anything. I've been angry before. You can be upset as well. But these emotions don't get things done. I feel like maybe I've been groomed for this my whole life because I've seen so much of all of this. I've had to deal with racism and bullying. Nothing phases me. I know these bullies. I've grown up with them. I feel sorry for them. I don't hate them for what they did to me. I understand that sometimes these people come from a place of being misinformed. It's not hate they inherently have. It's hate they've grown to have. It's hate they've been taught to have. And I just show them a bit of grace and say, listen, me being angry at them, shouting at them, being upset at them, it reinforces the stereotypes that they have. So if I want to be an effective communicator with them, I have to come at them from their level, and I have to just show them a bit of compassion and grace to them. And even though this person might be the person who's, not necessarily say my oppressor, but this person might be assisting the oppressor. They're not the ones holding the guns and stuff. But I have to understand that they are a human being and they love their families and they love their children. And, they're not a hateful person by nature, but they've been taught to hate you and not value you. And it's like, I just need to try and show them that actually I'm very much like you. Anger is not a good emotion for communication, and neither is pain and sadness. It's just being a bit more tactful, graceful, speaking openly, honestly, but also speaking with facts.
Yeah, absolutely. And when I was watching that interview and many other interviews, the thing that I find so difficult to watch is how Palestinians are made to constantly justify and met with questions like, but what about Hamas? What about October 7th? I find it really difficult to watch. But what you've just spoken there is so valuable. People are a product of their education and of the society in which we're living. The grace, the compassion that you spoke to, so important there. And do you find that extends to, I guess, the cognitive dissonance that we have, I suppose, within our society of people who are deeply in this versus people who are just going about their day oblivious and still existing in that apathy and silence? There must be a lot of silence that you have also witnessed.
This movement is so big that it's going to free the whole world, right? When I see someone silent or abject, I think they're missing one of the most amazing opportunities in the world, which is to be on this train that's headed to free us all. You're going to one day sit back and talk to your kids about how we were there at the protests. It doesn't have to be something big. It doesn't be like, oh yeah, I was campaigning and I brought legislation over and I took down LB. It doesn't have to be that, right? Kids are going, yep, I remember when that happened. I remember when we used to turn up to the protest on a Saturday and we'd all go out and we'd march and then we'd go to the pub afterwards and everybody was there and we were chanting and singing and the police used to arrest people. Those are the kind of things you talk about how we freed the whole world and how you were part of that movement. So, when I see people with apathy, I just think to myself, I feel sorry for them. These guys are missing a moment in history. Literally, you could be walking and breathing one of the greatest moments in human history, which is a real liberation of the civilized world. We live in what they say now is a civilized society, but really it's a constructed civilized society. It's a civilized society at home, but abroad we exploit people. We do slave labor. We ban it on our shores, but then we actively seek and fund it in other shores. So it's not a real civilization. It's built on the de-civilization of other people, on the dehumanization of other people. And this is what Gaza represents. It represents now leveling the whole playing field, that actually we all live in a civilized society where we're all governed by the same rules and laws and have the same rights. That's why I say the intersectionality of Gaza is so huge. When this train goes and it reaches its destination, we're all free, truly free. People in the global south feel it a bit more because it represents them, maybe so than people that live in the West that, feel like they live in an already free society, when really it's a free society for them, but not for everything that's carrying their society.
As a Palestinian, somebody who's grown up with this within your bones, with the knowledge that's passed down from your father, from intergenerationally, you've been living this your whole life and your family has been living this. What is it like for you to watch this global movement of people mobilize for Palestine?
It's overwhelming when you see so many people wearing the keffiyeh, so proud and so happy. So many people talking so positively about Palestinian people because, for a long time we were so dehumanized. And to see how many people literally love Palestinian people and they've never met a Palestinian person, but just from what they've seen, it's hopeful. But at the same time, when people come up to me and show me love for being Palestinian, it's like, this love is, I want to bottle it up and give it to those people in Gaza. They're the Palestinian heroes, not me. They are. I wish they were free so they could enjoy and see how much they're really loved by the whole world. I wish those borders would open. So when those trucks come in and when those people come in from all around the world to re-help build Gaza, that's why I want this, because they will see the love that so many people have around the world. The artists, the designers, the painters, the teachers, the doctors, the nurses, the engineers, the civil rights, everyone will gather in Gaza. That love they'll show these people, the care they have when they rebuild Gaza. That's why I want them to feel the love that we're all feeling over here as Palestinians in the diaspora. I want them to know that, I go into places and people give me a round of applause. And that's only because I lived the life of a Gazan person and I was there helping for a few weeks. But what about those Gaza heroes, those paramedics that have been doing it for 2 years? I imagine for them, if they walk into a room and they do these world tours talking about their experiences and the standing ovations that they'll have, I just want to see what it'd be like for them when they experience the love that I've received. They'll receive a love more than I could ever receive. I want that for them. I want them to see how much they are valued and how much what they do is so important. So yeah, I can't wait for that for them. I really can't. It's them that I think about. I can't wait for them to experience the love that the whole world has for them when that siege is broken.
And I think that's such an important thing for us to remember, even when we're protesting. I take a lot of footage of protests. I always post reels. I always post stories. And I do it not just for me, but also to show people that I've connected with in Palestine of like, look how much support there is. We're doing this for you. We're with you. It's not just for us and trying to raise awareness within the UK or within Europe, but actually showing the solidarity that we're building to remind people that they're not alone, to remind people that we are with them all of the time. Do you feel like that tipping point is here? Do you feel like it's coming?
I felt like that for weeks and months. And I think it's not going to feel like we've reached enough until we see a change in the policies of the government. So we can have so many people on our side, but unless things change, it's never going to feel like enough support until we force a change in the way that our governments behave, in the way that they do things. And I think that's coming. The train has left the station. You can't stop it. You can't derail it. You can try and slow it down. You can try and throw dirt on the train. You can muddy the waters, but the train is going to get to its destination one way or another. It's just when it arrives. And I hope that we're not too late.
Do you have advice for where people should be putting their time, energy, focus. I know that this is, especially in the past couple of weeks, from so many people I've spoken to, a lot of collective, I don't even know how to put it. I think a lot of people are struggling, full stop. I know that a lot of people are questioning, where should I be putting my energy right now? Where should I be putting my time, energy, focus? So I'm just wondering if there is any advice from you there.
Look, where you put your energy is precious. You only have so much energy that you can give, and so much that you need to be productive in other areas of your life and with your family. What I would say is just keep going. It doesn't matter how slow you are. It doesn't matter how little you're giving. Just keep going. Don't stop. That's what they want us to do. They want us to stop trying. They want to break our spirits. Just keep going. No matter how slow you do a lap around the track, you're still outlapping everyone that's sat on the couch. It doesn't matter how hopeless you feel, the campaigning, the protesting, all of that is a grain of sand on the tipping scales. If we get enough grains, the scales will tip. That's why it's so important that we keep going and don't stop fighting. No matter what happens, just don't stop. No matter how hopeless you feel, no matter how, if you feel that this isn't making a difference, it is making a difference. The world is beginning to change. Just keep going.
Absolutely. From my perspective, there's so many strands to this movement within an ecosystem of change. There's so much room for whatever your interests are, your skills are, your passions are. I remember speaking to a friend involved in social change and activism her whole life, and she was like, movements need accountants. They need, they need people doing the, the stuff, the admin at the back. They need people on the front lines. They need people doing, whatever your skill set is, there's room for you. And I suppose I've always seen it like that. Take what is meaningful for you and do that. Think of how you can contribute that. And, I know that your focus right now is getting this field hospital up and running. So I'd love to start talking about this. You've got plans for a hospital in Jordan, which you've mentioned will be privately funded, doctors brought in from all around the world, whether from Canada, the UK, from Europe, from Ireland, and a long-term plan within that to also feed children. You've got approval from the Irish Parliament. I'm curious what reception you had from the UK government.
I've got the backing of the Irish government. They're fully supportive of this mobile hospital. Look, things are going on in the background that I can't talk too much about until things get officially made. There has been a systematic targeting of not just the healthcare system, but healthcare workers in Gaza. It's part of the genocide. It's part of destroying the fabric of society so it never recovers. You can rebuild a building, but retraining a high-level surgeon might take 15 years. And they know that. That's why they kill that, because they want to lose. For decades, they want to change Gaza, the Palestinian movement, for decades. This is why it is vital that we have a plan in place to rebuild. We bring a hospital with our expertise, our doctors and our nurses. We use that hospital as a base to teach the doctors that stayed alive, to use it as a base to rebuild, to use it as a base to retrain, to use it as a base where we can put our energy in healing that younger generation, the children amputees. And that's why this hospital is so symbolic, because it's not just about treating people, it's about rebuilding for the future. What I'm trying to do is get a coalition of countries that are willing to work together that will kind of provide the template for the rebuilding process of the hospital system by giving doctors around the world access to Gaza. Once we have the access and our hospital there, then at that stage we have so many doctors that are willing to volunteer, so many world experts that will go over to help in the rebuilding, re-educating and redeveloping the healthcare system in Gaza. That's why this is so important, and that's why I'm focused so much on getting this done, because it's not just about saving lives right now, it's about the future of Gaza as well.
How is the progress going for it currently?
There's a lot of closed doors already, but we have to knock down all the barriers. And that's what makes this hard to do. It's hard to do because the reward or the consequences of getting this done are so huge. There's a lot at stake here. And that's why it doesn't matter how slow we go or how fast we go. The important thing is we're just moving forward every day with this. Every day we're making a little bit of progress, and that's what we need. We just need to keep making progress so eventually we can rebuild the healthcare system.
How can ordinary people help with that process? Is there any way that people can support you within that process?
Just keep applying pressure on the governments. Keep talking, keep raising your voice for Gaza. You don't have to necessarily directly help me with my project, but just keep pushing for a resolution on Gaza, keep pushing for a ceasefire. All of these help us. If we have a ceasefire, it becomes a lot easier to get this hospital in. If they stop bombing, it becomes a lot easier. If the ICJ case goes through, it gets a lot easier. Everyone can help by just doing what they're doing. Everyone keep pushing forward. When we're ready to start building, we'll reach out and hopefully more people will think. Essentially just follow me, keep an eye out on our social media, and we're going to keep this campaign going. We're going to keep pushing and make something happen hopefully soon.
And something that I've seen you post about today is obviously your friends who are on the Freedom Flotilla at the moment. How are they doing?
Well, they just set sail today. They're okay. There's obviously, there's not the same eyes that were on the last flotilla. And that's what's going to make things a bit scary for them. But I just hope they make it and break the siege. We've got to have all eyes on deck. Our eyes are very important. That's how we can support them, just by watching, sharing, and keeping them in our hopes and prayers, because they are attempting to do something that world governments should do, which is to break down the illegal siege and bring food into people.
What brings you hope most at this time?
Like I say, just watching and seeing how so many people from all different walks of life are talking about Palestine, are supportive of Palestine. It's really changed what's happened. It's really changed the reality of the pro-Palestine movement. What gives me hope is when you see people who have no affiliation with Palestine, Islam, Arabs, Palestinians, and they're willing to give up their entire career to defend Palestine. They're willing to walk away from lucrative contracts for Palestine. Those are the things that give me hope, because you can't buy that. You can't pay for that. You can't pay for somebody to destroy their lives. You pay for people to better their lives so they can support the occupation and what you're doing. But when you have people who are willing to sacrifice everything that they have and they have no affiliation to this place, that's when you know you've lost the hearts and minds. So that's what gives me hope, is that there are people willing to give up everything for this.
Totally. And something that I have seen people talk about is the sacrifice that people make. But then what comes with that is a new sense of community, like a new ecosystem of people. Jen Brister spoke to this yesterday in her talk at the March, that what you find when you step into this work, when you step into ongoing solidarity with Palestine, are the best group of people that you could meet. The people who are willing to put their reputations, their jobs, their finances on the line, because you're meeting and in direct connection with those people all of the time. For myself, I've definitely experienced stepping into the very best of humanity alongside the depravity of what we witness day in, day out.
Yes.
There is also this group of people who come together with so much solidarity, so much support and so much love that I feel like we are witnessing this real incredible solidarity movement. So I suppose, what I'm saying there is people who are still feeling that resistance to really put themselves out there. There is so much waiting on the other side.
There is. Be part of the movement. The train's already left the station. Hop on board.
Yeah, amazing. Thank you so much. Thank you for spending your Sunday evening with me. It really is a big honor to be able to have this conversation.
Thank you for being so patient. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for listening. It's great to have you with me on this journey towards higher love for all. Our time is our greatest commodity and gift, so thanks for investing it in yourself and sharing it with me. Please do take a moment to rate and review the show, all of which enables more people to find me and for me to connect with more great guests each week for both yours and my enjoyment. All links, references and contact information is detailed too within the show notes. And I always love to hear your feedback, so feel free to hit me up on my Instagram at higherlove_with_Megan or via my website higher-love.com. Send your takeaways, and if you enjoyed this episode, please share or send on to someone else who would benefit. Until next time, big love.